Gen Z has grown up in an era of rapid change and constant access to global information. The last 5 years alone have been inundated with climate change, pollution, politics, wars, cost of living, a global pandemic, and of course the dread of AI, the unknown, just to name a few. So it's crucial that we also discuss how we can find hope, spread hope like fire, and what aspects of the conversation remain unexplored or overlooked. Here to discuss it, Matt, Brianna, and Aryan. Aryan, I'm curious, I'm going to throw it over to you. How do you think we can change our messaging on climate change? Do you think the fear tactics work?
Well, if you force someone to a certain degree, but then it can find its way, but then it's a democracy. So we need to know what to use where. I think that plays a key role, especially like in a country like this. But then...
Like power, let people
power dynamics.
choose.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
yes. But then at the same time, for example, media, they should know they play one of the biggest roles here. So they should take initiative and not just present facts, but then also understand that people behind the camera is also human beings. So when you're giving information, there is emotional intelligence involved in that as well. So there should be a soft spot, a soft touch.
When you look at media, I mean, at the end of the day, their goal is to get clicks, right? And so unfortunately, or most media, unfortunately, we do see a lot of that negative messaging. Do you think there's a way to capture attention without making it so fear-based? I don't know. I don't know if climate change would have caught the same attention it did if it wasn't based on fear.
Well, when it comes to TikTok, you know, the formula for creating a TikTok video is you can have a negative hook or a positive hook. Negative hooks get more attention.
And they always do better.
And they always do better.
But
and that's the unfortunate part.
Both? That's my question. Because you could start maybe with the negative, but then by the end, you could have the positive. And you could introduce both.
Absolutely, totally. That's just one of those things that I just find that's kind of sad in a sense, where it's like we have to have the negative clicks in order to get the attention. You know what I mean?
And if I could also add, I think it's also on the basis of how you prioritize the different challenges we have. Because let's say if there's a housing crisis, that's something that's out there already. And then on top of that, now there's climate change.
Yeah.
So we already have a lot on our plate. And then if you add other factors, people just start disliking it, right?
So,
in a way.
so one of the things that I find interesting is, can we separate ourselves from the greater issue and just find those little wins every single day? Do we pick out, because again, this isn't just eco-anxiety, this is just existential dread in general. How do we pick out the issues that we care about and then find small ways we can win in those areas? Brianna?
I think you have to just not get overly involved in what you're watching in the media, especially if it's really negative. And I think, too, like what you were saying before about the small wins, I think that you have to look at what you're surrounded in and what you can do, especially even, for example, as a student.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what you can do. Look at, okay, this is my education. What can I bring now with my education into whatever field?
And I think it's about self-development, too, as well. Like, how are you on an emotional intelligence level? You know what I mean? Yes. That's one of the biggest things that employers and jobs and people that you're looking at is what you're looking for is like, what's your emotional intelligence?
Well, the one thing that I was also looking at too was how politics uses these methods as stone throws at each other.
Yeah.
I mean, what role does that play on our generation? Like when we watch these the House of Commons debates with political leaders talking about climate change,
it does. Massive divisiveness. And I feel like we have gone so far where it's like we're so divided more than ever, and we need to focus on coming together more. Like we're strength in numbers as a human species. Like
absolutely.
Guys, wake up. Like,
do you guys see the same sort of stone throws in education to an extent?
I think even if you talk about the government as well and education at the same time, it's still too early to decide if something's right or wrong. And that's where the problem is. And this is just something we have to just be okay with. Because we're still too early into all these situations. So people right now reacting, we need to understand that we have to first understand our situation, educate ourselves, and then go as per the surrounding or the environment you're in. Because right now there's more reacting. There's more action,
I was gonna say.
Right? So I think you could speak more about the education part as well.
Well, I was going to say, I just think that you have to get your emotional aspects in check before you can react, because you're not going to have a proper solution to a problem if you're just acting on your emotions.
Makes it worse.
Yeah,
many a time.
That's valid. Well, I find it interesting too. There's something called the feedback loop. And one of the things that I looked at was, action and effect. The more action you take, the effect you get. Once you weigh that effect, you take action again. The more you do it, the easier it gets and the more educated you become, right? Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the main thing. So, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
It can be very easy to allow existential dread to take over, especially when we have access to negativity everywhere. Now, whether or not you personally experience anxiety about the environment, economy, or the future, I hope you can balance positive action with prioritizing mental health. We want to hear from you, especially if you disagreed or missed something important. Join the conversation at My Generation on all platforms. Do not simply accept what you are told. Challenge your thinking, engage in differences, and please listen to new perspectives. Thank you.